In this video, we're going to learn about risk. Welcome to StudioSec. Thank you for watching. Like if this video is helpful, comment down below with any comments or concerns, and subscribe to this channel. We're posting more content every week. What is risk? We hear about this all the time, but how often is it really explained? Now, we know what the term risk refers to, and really we don't have to dig much further into those elementary concepts. However, it's incredibly important in cybersecurity to be intimately familiar with risk, where it is, what degree it's at, and how to work with it. In the business sense, risk is the probability of an event occurring that would cause any kind of negative impact, such as loss of money, reputation, business, data loss, what have you. These things are defined in what's called a risk registry, and we'll talk about that later. Now, we all have to live with some degree of risk. If you cross a street, there's a risk you'll get hit by a car. Now, that risk depends on whether the light is red or green and when you're walking, but the concept is the same. There is the risk of somebody ignoring the red and the green light and you still getting hit. Well, likewise in business, any process that occurs, anytime money changes hands, anytime you connect to the internet, you are importing risk. For the most part, that's fine. It can be pretty minute, but it's important to know and understand where that risk is and be familiar with it. If you're particularly risk adverse, it's important to remember that it's impossible for anything to exist with zero risk tolerance. A business with zero risk tolerance simply would not be able to exist. With risk, you really only have four options. You can assume the risk, you can control the risk, you can transfer the risk, or you can avoid the risk. If you choose to assume the risk, that means that the risk impacts a mission critical process that you cannot get rid of. Therefore, you learn to live with it. Perhaps you create disaster recovery plans or some kind of strategy that you implement on the back end. So if that risk comes into fruition, you're covered. Insurance is a common way of covering it. If you accept the risk of an event happening, it's good to know that you're covered on the back end. Conversely, if you want to control a risk, that means you're allowing it to live, but you are trying to control its impact. This can happen in a business function that it may not be mission critical, perhaps it's a little bit more malleable. You can control the risk to a degree, but you still do have to live with it. For instance, that might be with implementing a new policy and training your staff. Now, that mitigates the risk. You're controlling the risk, but the risk is still there, and it does come at the cost of you losing productivity and that employees are no longer doing their jobs for the time that they're training, so there's a risk attached to that. Mind you, all risks are interconnected. It's kind of a massive web that you have to try to untangle. Third is risk transference. This is whenever you pass the risk onto somebody else more capable of dealing with it. For instance, if you're a small to medium-sized business and you have the capability to offload your cybersecurity needs on a third party that is their role as a cybersecurity company, that is called risk transference. Fourth and final is risk avoidance. This is where a risk is intolerable. These can generally be for risks that can completely kill a company or cause massive irreparable damage. For all of these, it helps to develop a risk registry. A risk registry can be created in any which way you would like. It really is up to you ultimately, but it maps out every process and its risk. In doing so, you are rating levels of risk for every process, and that helps you decide what you want to do with that process. If you want to accept it, transfer it, control it, or avoid it. For example, I've accepted an amount of risk in making a YouTube channel, in that I could always get negative comments in the comment section. I don't only accept those, I invite them. Like if this video was useful. Comment down below if you want to accept my invitation for risk. Or if you have anything else you'd like to talk about risk or risk tolerance or risk registries, it's a fun conversation to have. And as always, subscribe for more content I'm posting every week. Thank you.